Your life if you never lifestyle inflate in your 20s. Part 1. The apartment. You are 23 years old and your apartment costs $850 a month. It is not a bad apartment. It has a window that faces east so the mornings are bright. It has a kitchen that is small but functional. It has a bathroom with a shower head someone installed wrong so the pressure is slightly off to the left. You have learned to stand slightly off to the left. You moved in 2 years ago when you were still in that phase where any apartment of your own felt like enough. And somewhere between then and now, it stopped feeling like enough. Not because anything changed, because everything around you did. Your college roommate just signed a lease on a 1-bedroom in a building with a rooftop, $1650 a month. She sent you photos. The kitchen has an island. The bathroom has 2 sinks for a person living alone, which is a detail that shouldn't matter and does anyway. Your coworker just bought a car, new. The payment is $490 a month. He mentioned it the way people mention things they want you to ask about. You asked. He told you about the heated seats, the backup camera, the way it drives on the highway like it's not driving at all. You drive a 2014 Honda Civic with 89,000 miles and a scratch on the passenger door from a parking lot you were in once and never found out who did it. It runs. It gets you there. It has never once felt like enough at a red light next to something newer. This is the moment most people don't recognize as a moment.
It doesn't announce itself. There's no decision that feels like a decision. There's just a slow, ambient pressure. The rooftop apartment, the new car, the Instagram stories from people your age who seem to be living at a level you haven't reached yet. And the pressure accumulates until one day you find yourself refreshing listings for apartments you can technically afford if you cut some other things, which you tell yourself you'll do, which you don't do, because the things you'd have to cut are the things you've already gotten used to. You do not upgrade the apartment. Not because you can't, because you do the math one Tuesday night when you can't sleep, and the math shows you something the feeling never did.
You are making $54,000 a year. You take home $3,200 a month. Your current apartment costs $850. The one with the rooftop costs $1,650. The difference is $800 a month, $9,600 a year. Over 5 years, $48,000 in additional rent paid to live somewhere that feels better but builds nothing. You look at that number for a long time. $48,000 is not an abstraction. $48,000 is a down payment. $48,000 is 5 years of maximum Roth IRA contributions. $48,000 invested in a total market index fund at 23 years old is something else entirely by the time you are 53, which is a number so far away it feels fictional, but is less than 30 years from tonight. You close the listing. You go to sleep in the apartment with the east-facing window and the shower head that points slightly left. You have made the first decision without knowing you made it. Part 2. The raise. 14 months later, you get a raise. 4%. Your salary moves from $54,000 to $56,160. Your take-home increases by approximately $130 a month. The standard thing, the invisible default thing that nobody tells you is a choice, is to feel it. To let the additional money find its way into your life. A nicer grocery store, an extra streaming service, the restaurant you've been walking past for 2 years and never going into. Lifestyle inflation does not feel like a decision when it happens. It feels like adjustment, like your life is simply calibrating to your new income, the way water finds its level. Natural, automatic, reasonable. You do not let it calibrate. You increase your 401k contribution by 2 percentage points. You increase the automatic transfer to your Roth IRA by $75 a month. You keep the apartment, you keep the car with the scratch on the door. The raise disappears into the future so quietly that by the 3rd week, you cannot feel it was ever there. Your nervous system adjusted before you could spend it. That is the mechanism. The money leaves before it becomes real. You use it.
A year after that, a promotion. Senior analyst. Your salary is $63,000. You run the same play. Contributions go up, life stays the same. There is a dinner around this time with people from college. Someone has just moved into a 2-bedroom with exposed brick in a neighborhood that has become expensive faster than anyone predicted. Someone else just leased a car that costs more per month than your rent cost 3 years ago. The conversation moves the way these conversations move. Updates that are really comparisons. Progress reports that are really invitations to measure yourself against someone else's choices. You feel it. The specific discomfort of being the person whose life doesn't look like it's moving from the outside. You feel it clearly, and you say nothing. Because what you know and what you cannot say at a dinner table without sounding like you're giving a lecture nobody asked for is that the gap between what your life looks like and what your life is doing has never been wider. What it looks like, the same apartment, the same car, the same salary band as 2 people at this table who upgraded everything the moment they could. What it is doing, compounding. You are 26 years old. Your investment accounts combined hold $41,000. Nobody at this table knows that. Nothing about your life signals it. You have built something invisible, and invisible things are hard to feel proud of in rooms where everyone is showing you something they can see. You order the pasta. You listen. You drive home in the Civic. Part 3. The cost.
There is a cost to this. You should know that before the story makes it sound simple. The cost is not financial. The cost is the sustained, low-level discomfort of moving in a direction that looks like stillness to everyone around you. It is the friend who assumes you can't afford the trip, when the truth is, you've decided the trip doesn't fit the plan. It is the family member who asks, gently, if everything is okay at work, because you're still in the same apartment and still driving the same car, and surely by now, things should look different. It is the version of yourself at 27 that sits with a bank balance of $67,000 across all accounts and cannot tell anyone because money is not something people talk about. And even if it were, the number would require explaining a decision that most people in your life have not made and do not want explained to them.
The cost is the loneliness of a long game played quietly. Most people do not warn you about this part. The books don't cover it. The financial content online skips from the decision to the result and leaves out the middle, which is where you actually live. The middle is long. The middle is quiet. The middle is the years between starting and arriving, where the only evidence that anything is working is a number in an app that you check and close and check again, because the number is real, but it doesn't feel real yet. You stay in the middle. You keep going. There is a moment at 28. Not a dramatic moment, not a revelation, just a Tuesday evening when you open the app for the quarterly review you've been doing since year 1. The number across all accounts is $89,000. You sit with that for a while. $89,000 is not life-changing. It is not freedom. It is not the end of anything. But it is the first number that has ever made the middle feel worth it. Not because of what it is, but because of what it represents. 5 years. Every raise that disappeared into the future. Every apartment you didn't upgrade. Every car that was fine and not impressive. Every dinner where your life didn't look like progress. All of it. Here. Quiet. Compounding.
Part 4. The Divergence. You are 30 years old. Your college roommate, the one with the rooftop apartment, has moved twice since then. Each apartment nicer than the last. She makes approximately what you make. She has $11,000 in savings. She is not irresponsible. She is not reckless. She made the normal choices. The choices that feel correct in the moment because every signal in the culture is pointing on them. She is also beginning to feel, quietly, that something is off. That she has been earning a real salary for 7 years and has almost nothing to show for it, except a life that looks exactly like what a successful person in their early 30s is supposed to look like from the outside.
The life that looks like success and the life that is building toward it are not always the same life. You are not looking down at her. You are not telling her this. You know because you lived on the edge of that same choice for years, and the only difference between your path and hers is one Tuesday night and one spreadsheet and one number that made $48,000 feel like more than a nicer kitchen. Your accounts are at $118,000. Your rent has gone up twice since you moved in. The apartment is now $1,050. You are still there. The shower head still points slightly left. You have stopped noticing. Your car has 127,000 miles. It passed inspection. It will pass again. Every year you do not buy a new car is a year the money that would have been a car payment compounds instead. You have calculated what this means. You don't think about it often because the thinking is not necessary anymore. The decision is permanent. It became permanent somewhere around year 3 when it stopped feeling like discipline and started feeling like just how you live. That is the transition nobody tells you to look for. The moment the sacrifice stops feeling like sacrifice. Part 5. The number. You are 35. Your salary is $79,000. You have been promoted twice, moved companies once for a meaningful raise, and negotiated twice because you read enough to know that negotiation is just a conversation, and the worst answer is no, and no is survivable. You still live below your income. Not dramatically below, not monastically. You moved apartments once, not for the rooftop, not for the island kitchen, but for a second bedroom that became a home office when the world required one. The rent went from $1,050 to $1,350. You ran the math. It made sense. You made the upgrade. That is an important part of this story that is easy to miss. This is not about deprivation. This is not a story about suffering through your 20s and 30s so that some future version of you can enjoy the life you denied yourself.
That version of wealth building is real, and it works. And it is also its own kind of poverty. The poverty of a present you never let yourself inhabit. The decision was never to live less. The decision was to upgrade intentionally instead of automatically. To ask whether the upgrade builds something or only signals something. To tell the difference between the apartment that costs $800 more because the kitchen is better and the apartment that costs $800 more because the kitchen signals a level of arrival you want other people to see. One of those is a real upgrade. One of those is a costume. You learned to tell them apart. That took longer than the spreadsheet. That was the actual work. You are 35. Your investment accounts hold $340,000. You have never earned an extraordinary income. You have never inherited anything. You have never had a windfall moment, a viral product, a startup exit, or a break that changed everything. You have had a salary and a decision and the discipline to keep the decision alive through 7 years of watching other people make a different one. $340,000 at 35, invested in a diversified portfolio growing at a historical average, becomes something in the next 25 years that the 23-year-old in the east-facing apartment could not have calculated without crying. Not from sadness, from the specific disorientation of understanding, for the first time, what time actually does to money when you stop getting in its way. Part 6. The conversation. Your younger sister calls you on a Sunday. She is 24. She just got her first real job. She is looking at apartments, and the one she wants costs $1,800 a month, and she makes $51,000 a year. And she is calling you because something about the math feels off, but she can't locate exactly what. You are quiet for a moment. Not because you don't know what to say, because you know exactly what to say, and you are trying to find the version of it that sounds like a conversation and not a lecture. You ask her one question. What does the apartment you're in now cost? $950, she says. You ask her what the difference is per month. $850, she says. You tell her to open a calculator. You tell her to multiply $850 by 12.
She gets $10,200. You tell her to multiply that by 5. She is quiet. $51,000, she says. That's right, you tell her. And that's before compounding. That's just the cash. The version of that money invested at your age for 30 years is a different number entirely. There is a silence on the phone that is not uncomfortable. It is the silence of someone doing arithmetic they have never been asked to do before. The arithmetic that converts a monthly feeling into a decade decision. She does not move into the $1,800 apartment. She calls you 3 weeks later to tell you she opened a Roth IRA. She set the transfer to $300 a month. She says it feels too small to matter. You look at your accounts. You are 35. The number is $340,000. You started with less than she's starting with. You started later than she's starting. It's not too small, you tell her. It's never too small. The size of the amount matters less than the permanence of the decision. She says, okay. You can hear that she doesn't fully believe you yet. That's fine. You didn't fully believe it either. You just did it anyway, which turns out to be the only thing that was ever required.
Part 7. What it actually feels like. People want to know what it feels like to have made the right call across a decade. The honest answer is that it doesn't feel like winning. It doesn't feel like the moment in a film where the score swells and the character stands on a rooftop looking at a city they've conquered. It feels like a Tuesday. It feels like opening an app, seeing a number, closing the app, and making coffee. It feels like driving a car that runs and not thinking about it. It feels like sleeping without the background noise of financial fear, which you did not know was there until it was gone, which is the most important thing about this entire story. The absence of fear is not dramatic. You cannot post it. You cannot show it to someone at a dinner and have them understand what it represents. It just sits there, quiet, underneath everything, making the rest of your life more spacious than it was before. Your accounts are at $340,000 and growing faster now than your contributions can explain. The compounding has crossed the threshold where it is becoming the primary engine. The money is making money at a rate that is approaching what you earn by working. You are still 35. The traditional retirement age is still 30 years away, but it is beginning to feel like a choice rather than a deadline. That is the difference. For most people, retirement is a finish line they are running toward because the alternative is running forever. For you, it is becoming a door. You can go through it when you choose. You can stay working because the work is meaningful. You can stop because the number allows it. You can do something in between that doesn't have a name yet because the freedom to invent it requires first having the financial foundation to stand on. You built that foundation with ordinary money, in an ordinary apartment, driving an ordinary car, across a decade of ordinary decisions that nobody threw a party for and nobody saw from the outside. That is the whole story. Not inspiring in a way that makes you want to run somewhere. Inspiring in a way that makes you want to sit down, open a spreadsheet, and look, really look at the difference between what your life costs and what it could be building. Because somewhere right now, there is a 23-year-old refreshing apartment listings. The rooftop building, the island kitchen, the life that looks like it's moving. They're about to make a decision they don't know they're making. Maybe they do the math. Maybe they close the listing. Maybe they go to sleep in the apartment with the slightly off shower head and wake up the next morning having made the first quiet decision of a very long, very ordinary, very extraordinary story. Maybe that person is you. The listing is still open. The math is still true. The decision is still yours.